years since the first time I saw one of my favorite comedy movies ever, Airplane. Airplane is a 1981 Zucker Brothers movie, and it's a spoof on those airport disaster movies of the 1970s. The premise is that this plane almost gets taken down when both pilots fall ill, and it's up to the flight attendant, played by Julie Haggerty, and her estranged boyfriends to land the plane safely. Hijinks ensue, of course, and now that I'm older, I get those dirty jokes. One of those dirty jokes is when they put the plane on Autopilot, and it's basically a big blow-up doll of a pilot that Julie Haggerty's character has to blow up. Here's the thing. I'm Linda. This is Linda's World. This is Self-Care Sundays, and Autopilot is not funny outside of a Zucker Brothers movie. Autopilot is no way to live your life, except that people seem to be doing it. People seem to be going through the motions in life and not really being present in what they're doing. Now, in this episode of Self-Care Sundays, I'm going to outline 10 ways you can tell you're on autopilot and how to stop that right now and start living your best life. So, if you want to know what those 10 things are, if you want to stop living your life on autopilot because this is not a Zucker Brothers comedy, well, that list of 10 things starts right now. Autopilot is no way to live your life, and it can be downright dangerous at times if not careful. But we'll talk about that in a moment, because after all, this is Self-Care Sundays. First, I have an important announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of Linda's World, tonight we stand 302 strong. We have surpassed the 300 subscriber mark, and in Linda's World, that can only mean one thing: giveaway. I said it. I did it for 200, I did it for 100, and I'm doing it again. So, here's what I need from you guys. First and foremost, if you're not a member of Linda's World yet, well, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button down below this video. And don't forget to hit that notification bell, especially subscribers. Make sure those notifications are turned on, and I'll tell you why. In the next video on this channel, during the introduction, I'm going to be outlining the details of the Linda's World 300 subscriber giveaway contest. And, well, who doesn't want to win a prize? Now, it's Self-Care Sundays, and I'm wearing my self-care shirt, so why don't we just dive into this conversation about autopilot and what it means psychologically. Now, remember those commercials that they used to say, I'm not just a spokesman, I'm also a client? Well, yeah, I'm actually a client. I have been guilty of autopilot many times in the last 44 years, up to and including this past winter. Now, recently, I've been able to figure out a couple of little mental tricks that help me sort of climb out of it. And so because I've just recently experienced this, and it's something that's really prevalent on my mind, I figured I'd share it with you, because I can't possibly be the only person for whom 2020 kicked me in the ass. And even before 2020, before the pandemic and the quarantine and all of the, civil rights abuses and all the things that have been happening in society in the past 12 months, well, I mean, there were other problems too. And that's the thing about autopilot. It usually stems from a traumatic experience or just a whole bunch of negative things back to back. People who've lost loved ones may find themselves on autopilot when planning the funeral and going through all the well wishes and such from loved ones. People who've lost a job, people who are looking for a job, people who are unhappy in their job, people who are getting divorced, people who need to get divorced, people who are changing schools, people who are changing careers. Anytime there's any kind of flux in your life, it is only natural to sort of put yourself subconsciously on a version of autopilot so that you can subsist in the world and not spontaneously combust from all the stress. It's actually a pretty healthy thing to start. It's the brain's response to too much stimuli. Imagine, if you will, your brain is an iPhone and it has 128 gigabytes and you're trying to store 256 gigabytes of pictures and songs. You can't do it, right? Well, the brain is the iPhone, and the brain can only handle so much information. So it basically just goes on autopilot to save us. What I mean by autopilot is we just go through the motions. It's exactly what you're thinking. It's not convoluted. It's not hard to understand. It's when you go through the motions, but your heart and your brain are not in it, even if your body is. So what are the 10 signs? Well, first and foremost, it's when you dread the day ahead of you. Now, I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, but Linda, everybody does that. And I know that. I mean, tomorrow's Monday, and I'm going back to work, and I don't want to. So I totally understand. But I'm talking about anything specific. I'm not talking about regular Sunday night panic or, ooh, I don't want to go to the dentist tomorrow. I'm talking about a dread that overcomes you. You would rather chew your own arm off than do whatever it is you have to do when you wake up tomorrow. That's dreading the day ahead of you, when it's so unpleasant that you're thinking of possible escape routes and you know you can't, and you're in a panic about it, and you just, whatever it is, tomorrow when you wake up, you can't do that activity because it's horrible. that is a sign that you're on autopilot. And I'm going to tell you why after the signs are done. Now, the next one is that your daily routine is predictable. Now, for some people, this is positive, and I'm not suggesting that a person doesn't stick to a routine. I stick to several routines, and they work for me. But when I say when I say your daily routine is predictable, I mean that it's sort of the same every day and monotonous. Years ago, there was this episode of the Powerpuff Girls that I was watching with my little brother, and this guy woke up every single morning beside his wife, this little cartoon man, and his wife said, "You'll never guess what's for breakfast, pancakes." And he had this daughter with braces on who would say something weird, and he had a son who would say something weird, and then he'd go to work, and his job was to put the caps on the mustard jars on the assembly line, and then he'd go home next morning, "Honey, you'll never guess what's for breakfast, pancakes." And the cycle would repeat itself. And they were attempting to show this dude, because then he went bad and the Powerpuff Girls had to fight him, and it was basically a comment on society and how our routines can become monotonous. And obviously we pretty much do the same thing every day, and that's fine. We go to school, we go to work, we have our husbands and wives, and we walk our dogs and stuff, but it's when it's a problem. It's when that routine is stale and we don't want it and we dread it, like in number 1, and we don't know what to do about that. Now, the third sign, and this kind of conflicts number 2, is that you do things without thinking. Okay? Now, who among us has ever done this? Who among us has poured something to drink, gone and placed it somewhere, taken a sip, whatever, and then a couple minutes later found themselves in the kitchen again and poured the same drink? Anybody? Yeah. Now, little mindless things like this, things that we do without thinking, we just blindly do. That's a symptom of us being on autopilot, or a sign, I should say, that we're on autopilot because we are not consciously making decisions. We're just sort of letting our body do it. My body goes to the refrigerator and pours the beverage and then sets it down. But my brain doesn't say, "Hey, Linda, you want a beverage?" It's just something I'm doing on autopilot. Okay? Has anyone ever left the house in the morning and had that fear? Uh-oh, did I turn off my hair straightener, my curling iron, my whatever, and think about it and worry about it, and even go home or call somebody at home to check and see if you unplugged it or something like that? Did I leave the coffee machine running or whatever? The reason we're thinking these things is because it's something we do every day. As per number 2, our daily routine is so predictable that we did that because we do it every day. And yet, we trip ourselves up. You know, if I straighten my hair every single day before leaving the house, and then I unplug the straightening iron and go outside, there's going to be a time when I think, "Oh crap, I forgot to unplug the straightening iron. I'm going to blow my house up." And now, rationally, I know it turns itself off after 2 hours. But that fear is because I've done something without thinking. I just monotonously do it, if that makes any sense to you. Now, number 4, and how many of us are guilty of this one, you can't seem to put your phone down. Now, I'm not talking about using your phone to text somebody. I'm not talking about making a phone call. I'm not even talking about watching YouTube videos like you're doing right now. I'm talking about when you have the phone in your hand, and you could be doing anything else. You're in a meeting, you're watching TV, you're walking the dog, you're in the bathroom, wherever it is that you bring your phone. There's nothing new on it. Like, you've been through Facebook, you've been through Instagram, you've texted all the people, you've checked your email, and you just keep scrolling. You hit refresh, you pull the screen down, and you just keep looking because maybe there's something else. It's sort of the equivalent of walking to the refrigerator, staring at it, and magically expecting new food that isn't there to be there when you're hungry, you know? And so it's this thing we do where we constantly open the phone and check. It's like a reflex. And this is a problem that didn't exist when I was a kid. Hell, it didn't even exist till I was like 30 with the invention of the smartphone. The reason why we're on autopilot is because we're monotonously, robotically doing it. The definition of insanity, as they say, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? And so in a much less intense way, constantly refreshing our feeds and looking at random stuff that doesn't count on our apps or whatever, it's our brain on autopilot making us repeat the activity because we're looking for stimuli. Subconsciously, we know the stimuli isn't there, but we cannot help opening Instagram, Twitter, or whatever to look for that stimuli, even though we know damn well nothing is new. If it's 3 a.m, who the hell's writing to you? Nobody. But if you're awake and you're going like this, okay, it's because you're on autopilot. Your body is, your finger is doing it, not your brain, because your brain is on autopilot. Okay, now I suffer from this one often. You stay in deep thought. Now, years ago on Saturday Night Live, there was Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy. They were supposed to be funny. Like, for example, one said, if trees could scream, would we be so cavalier about cutting them down? Maybe we would if they just kept screaming all the time. And that was supposed to be funny. And those were funny deep thoughts. I'm not talking about that. It's like Airplane and the Autopilot. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the situation where you can't get your brain out of the loop. Where you're doing your thing, whatever, you're taking a shower, using your computer, whatever it is you're doing in the world, right? But you're not thinking of that. You're focused on other thoughts that are deep. For example, you're doing a routine procedure. You're washing a dish, right? And while washing the dish, you're not thinking of rubbing the sponge. You're thinking of your taxes, your homework, your, an ill family member, the state of the world, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, whatever it is that you're thinking about, and you're stuck in the loop of deep thought when you're doing a task that is anything but. Like, for example, doing your makeup, but you're not thinking of your eyeliner. You're thinking about, Black Lives Matter, but you can't stop thinking about Black Lives Matter, if that makes sense. It's this thing where you're stuck in the loop of thought, and no matter what activity you're doing, you're not thinking of that activity, you're thinking of the depth of what's in your brain that you can't get out. And it's stuck on repeat like a record that's skipping, those of us who are old enough to remember vinyl. I know it's making a comeback. I'm just being funny. Okay, now the next one is one that happens to me a lot and it's embarrassing. And it's that you suffer from forgetfulness. True story. I went to the corner store, because here in Brooklyn, that's what we have. We have the corner store. And so my best friend wanted two things. She wanted a pack of cigarettes. She wanted a bottle of Coke. Okay? She always wants a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of Coke. Right? So I went and bought it for her. On the way to the store, I received a text. She said, dude, can you get me a Snickers? I said, okay. Went into the store, got the Coke, got the cigarettes, got my own purchases, Pepsi, paper towels, what have you, right? And I walk out of the store. And I said, oh crap, the Snickers. And I went back in and I got it. She never knew that I forgot it. But a couple of nights later, I went to the store, bottle of Coke, pack of cigarettes, and she had asked me for a Mounds. I came all the way to my home. She'd asked me for a Mounds 2 times. I forgot the Mounds. I went back, got the Mounds, but I was embarrassed. There was egg on my face. Now you may be saying, Linda, this is a pointless story. Listen, it's just a trip to the store. But to me, it's indicative of the fact that I was on autopilot, and here's why. I go to that store. I go to that store every night. Okay? I go to that store every day. I'm at that store so much, I need stock in this place, right? And I go and I make a beeline to the places I need. Here's where the soda is. Here's where the paper towels are. And here's where the cat food is, whatever. And I don't think about what I'm doing. I just mindlessly reach for the object. And so if she wants an object, or if I want an object, or if she reminds me of something that is out of the ordinary of my daily trip to that store, we call it Bob's, then my brain can't process it because I'm on autopilot. Get the soda, get the cigarettes, get the paper towels. And I can't not. And there's no room for new information because remember, the tape is playing. Okay, I'm not thinking. The loop is playing in my head. New information gets forgotten because I'm on autopilot. All right, number 7 is actually kind of painful to even talk about, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. You can't let go. Now, every time I say something like this, everyone makes the obligatory Frozen joke. Let it go. Ha ha. I know. I can dig it. I like Elsa myself. But the thing is, letting it go takes on many different forms. There's an old saying that says that if you're anxious, you're worried about the future, and if you're depressed, you're living in the past. And I've said that a couple of times in this channel, I know, in my old videos, you can go creep, but it means a lot in this particular context because not letting go takes on different forms. For example, keeping pictures up of a person who's no longer with you, like an ex or something like that, or holding on to the possessions, not keepsakes, but meaningless possessions, like a box of tissues, not like a special piece of jewelry or whatever, but a meaningless object because it reminds you of a specific thing. I know we keep collectibles, like some people keep the champagne corks of events and write the date on them or something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about holding on to stuff that literally means nothing in the real world, but to you it's from a time, and it's a time that you probably not ought to be holding on to anyway, but you do. Sometimes can't let go means you don't erase a number from your phone you don't need anymore, or you don't replace objects of clothing in your wardrobe or whatever, because you're stuck in this loop. Like I said, autopilot's all about a loop, in case you haven't noticed in this list that we're halfway through here. And you get down into this mindset where it's whatever that time was in your head, and you can't rid yourself of the thoughts, the objects, the phone numbers, the songs, the videos, whatever it is, of this time in the past that's of meaning to you. So a good example of this would be many years ago in 1993. My aunt and godmother died. She was almost 39. She died of brain cancer. She was my mother's sister and best friend. It was a huge loss to our family. Now, 2 weeks prior to her death, I turned 16. And I got a gift. I got a purse that was cute with a little pair of earrings in them. And so somewhere right around there, she'd given some clothing away, whatever. She's like, oh, take these, I don't want them. And there were these leggings that were popular at the time, and they had little gold stars on the ankles. And they were cute, but they were out of fashion within a year. And so obviously I kept the little evening bag and I kept the earrings. I actually still have them in a drawer. But the thing is that I also, for a long amount of time, had those leggings with the stars on them in my drawer. And it was at least the year 2000, at least, this happened in 93, that I threw them away, because they were one of the last things that I took from my Aunt Kathy. And I thought of the times, and I thought of how generous she was and how decent she was. She was a lovely individual. She was nothing but polite, giving, awesome, friendly, and fun. I mean, she was downright cool person, right? And she'd given me these leggings because she thought they'd look cute, and they did. And they no longer served my purpose, but they were from this person who's dead, so I had to keep them. No, I didn't. I could keep my Aunt Kathy's here. She's here. You know what I mean? She's in the photo album. She doesn't have to be in my dresser drawer, so I threw them away. I had to let go. Now, number 8 is that you're not, and hear me out, you're not making meaningful progress. If you've gotten this far, basically what I'm trying to say is that if you're stuck in this autopilot loop and you're actually doing tasks, you're going to work, you're paying your bills, you're cleaning your house, you're doing all the stuff, okay? You're doing activities, you're living your life. You're not sitting in a hole somewhere, okay? You're doing things, but you're not progressing. For example, if you say, I'm going to pay off my debt, right? And you're paying your bills, but somehow you always seem to still have the same money problem. Or you wanted to strive towards a certain career goal, and you're doing it and you're planning it, but you're still stuck in the same job after 2 years of this planning, because maybe you're stuck in the planning loop, okay? You're on autopilot, so you're not advancing to the next level. If you imagine life as a video game, it's almost like you're stuck in the last one I played was Super Mario 1 in 1987. So imagine if you're stuck in World 1-1 and you can't advance. Even though you're going like this, you're still stuck in 1-1 with the mushrooms, and you can't advance to the next level. You're on autopilot. Now we're getting pretty close to the end of this list here. So number 9 is that, and this is probably the one that I've done the most of all of the things in this list. And actually, like I said, it's a little bit painful, but you say yes even when you mean no. Now, I'm not talking about me too. Okay, I'm not speaking in those terms. I'm saying yes when you mean no in terms of favors for people, or activities and plans, or things that are bothersome to you that you probably ought not be doing, like stuff that you consider dangerous, or stuff that you're too tired for, or stuff that's not of interest to you. And why do you say yes? Because it's easier. Okay, I've long said that the biggest lie ever told on planet Earth by any human, and the most common lie ever told on Earth by any human, goes something like this. Don't worry, it's no problem. Okay? Sometimes it's a problem, but we say yes when we mean no, because it's so much easier to submit than to get into the argument. Because when we're on autopilot, when we're stuck in our deep thoughts, and when we're ruminating, and when we're doing things without thinking, and going through our predictable routine, and dreading the next day, and all of those things I've suggested already, we don't have time to get into it with that other person who asked us, hey, come with me to this dinner party, or hey, please help me out with this work project, or hey, I have a problem, can you call me, I'll come over and you paint my house, whatever it is they ask you, okay, take me to the airport, name your favor, okay, and you can't say no, because then you're risking a conversation about why, and your brain is too busy going on that merry-go-round to even entertain the idea of putting up with someone else's bullshit, right? So you just avoid the bullshit and you say, sure, no problem, I'll be right there. Finally, and this seems kind of vague, but this is the premise that Linda's World, the channel, and Linda's World, the podcast for that matter, more on that later, has been built on, which is you're not living your best life. Okay? Now, I used to say on this channel, live your best life when you're not living your best life. What I mean by that is that if you're living a life that you kind of have to, if you're stuck in certain things, like for example, I'm stuck in a job I can't retire from. That's just life. If I want money, I have to go, right? So you can't change that, but you can find the coolness in your life that is not the uncool parts. Like you could hate your Mondays, but really have fun on Tuesdays. You know what I'm saying? Find the joy even amidst the sorrow. And so not living your best life and knowing it, okay, when you're on autopilot, looks something like this. You know that there's something out there. Like you can envision the life that you can be living. You know, you see yourself in that cool apartment, or you see yourself in that awesome new city, or you see yourself out of that relationship and into a new one, or out of that relationship and single and ready to mingle, okay? Or, you know, with that degree or whatever it is that you want out of life, and you are anything but that. And somehow you feel like you keep working, you wake up in the morning and you do this daily routine and you keep doing it and doing it on autopilot, okay? Not putting your brain into it at all, or your heart or your soul, right? Like I said earlier. And you know what the answer is. Like you know what you want. You know, it's not like, oh, I don't know what I want. No, you have a dream, okay? And you can envision it. It's right there. But somehow you just keep taking these steps and taking these steps. And it's as if you're on a stationary bike instead of a real one. You know what I mean? You're not living the life you want. And no matter what steps you take, you don't seem to get there, you know? Imagine, if you will, you're in a canoe and you keep on going in circles. Anyone who's seen my previous video, shout out, because you know what I'm talking about when I talk about canoe. Just an inside joke. Now, I've been blathering on here for 20 minutes about living on autopilot, and I haven't told you the key. And the key is not so much how to recognize it, but literally what do you do? Okay? And so I'm going to tell you a very simple solution. I'm not going to make a long list. I'm not going to check it twice. I'm not going to tell you what to do in these weird, you know, like I'm not going to make you a checklist or anything. It's very simple. It's one little thing. I have a piece of advice for you. It's something that has worked for me in 44 years. Am I perfect? No. But I just keep on waking up in the morning and I just keep on trying to go for that goal. And so here's what I do to keep myself moderately sane, even when I've had episodes of autopilot. My favorite book in the entire universe that isn't a school book, my favorite school book is The Great Gatsby, is a book called A Woman of Substance by Barbara Taylor Bradford, and I recommend it highly to all humans, boy or girl. It's more of a female read, but my dad read it. And so, nevertheless, it's 900 pages. It's an undertaking, and it's a whole series. And it's about this girl named Emma, who goes from being a poor maid in England to running a multi-million-dollar empire when she's an adult, right? And when she was trying to get out of poverty and trying to figure out what to do to be a successful person, right? She did this thing, she said she was figuring out her budget and what to do and all, and she called it a plan with a capital P. Okay? Now, it's an inside joke, not a joke because it's not funny, but an inside situation between my mother and me, that we always say that just like Emma Harte, we're going to have a plan with a capital P. And that plan can differ over the years depending on what it is you want. But when I say plan with a capital P, to quit being on autopilot, here's what I legitimately mean, okay? I'm saying whatever you need to do, like use your notes on your phone, get a piece of paper, get your diary out, wherever you write stuff, okay? Literally write down. If you're an artist, draw it out, paint it, it doesn't matter. Record a voice memo, whatever, however you take down notes, okay? Pick what you want, feasibly. I don't mean I want $1 million. I mean, pick what you want. Like, how do you want to live? When you wake up in the morning, what do you want to be? You know, where do you want to be? How much money do you want in the bank? Who do you want to talk to? Who do you not want to talk to? What clothing would you like to put on? What do you want to eat? Envision the life that you logically want and can get feasibly within yourself, okay? And write it down or draw it or whatever I said, like jot it down, note it, okay? And every action that you do in your waking hours, okay, and I know you have responsibilities. I'm not saying go quit your job, okay, but whenever you can, when you have a spare moment to yourself, okay, practice leisure, of course, but do something, even if it's one thing, each day that lends credence to your plan, that gets you in the right direction. Instead of pedaling on a stationary bike, do one thing. You don't have to change the world. Rome wasn't built in a day. Neither was your plan with a capital P. You put your plan with a capital P in motion by doing one thing per day, and weekends count, that will get you to the life that you want to live. Feasibly. I'm not talking about I want to be living in a mansion in Malibu. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you want to just, for example, be out of your marriage, or if you would like a new career, or if you want to bring your grades up, or if you want to talk to that girl that you've been looking at and you think she kind of likes you, okay? Whatever it is that you envision for yourself that you don't currently have, do one thing a day to work toward that goal. Okay, now what's going to happen is two things. Number one, you're going to achieve your goal, and that's awesome. But number two, and more importantly, for the purposes of this video, is that you are going to kind of stop being on autopilot, because you'll be living your life with intent. Okay, you know how there's like possession and possession with intent, right? Well, there's living and there's living with intent, right? There's a way to live your life so that you're heading toward a common goal, that there's something that you feasibly want and you're making steps towards it, okay? Dr. Phil once said the difference between a dream and a goal is a timeline. And I actually believe that that's true. That timeline is your plan with a capital P, okay? Do the Emma Harte. Literally write shit down. Literally do what's written, okay? It could look any way you want, but I'm saying that you have to take action. Like they say, actions speak louder than words. Cliches exist for a reason, okay? And those reasons are, if you continue to just go through the motions in the old life, the life that you don't like, the life that you're living right now, staring at your computer screen, your phone screen, whatever, on the toilet, in your bed, wherever you watch YouTube, okay? You're looking at some blonde girl telling you this stuff, and that's fine. But now what you're going to do is X out this video and go do something that's your plan with a capital P, whatever the case may be. And you'll find that you will bring intention, you'll bring your brain, you'll bring your heart and soul back into it. You'll no longer be on autopilot, and you'll be living the life that you always wanted, within reason. And I'm not saying the success rate's 100%, but at least you won't be going through the motions in a continuous loop, playing the same tape all of your life. Autopilot will be no more. All the background noise in my hallway has told me that it's time to go, so I'm going to see you guys next week, well, later this week I should say, with some information on that giveaway. So I'm going to go and do something for my plan with a capital P, which is called to edit this video, and I'm going to see you soon.